We've reached the end of our series on the Minnesota sovereignty crisis. We've covered the $9 billion heist, the street riots, and the tragic loss of life. But if we stop there, we are missing the most important part of the story. Politics can describe the problem, but it rarely provides the cure. To truly understand why our society is fraying at the edges, we have to look into the spiritual blind spot. Today, we are finding our focus through a Christian lens, looking at the principles of stewardship, truth, and the divine order that must be restored if we ever want to see peace in our streets again. Welcome to the Blind Spot. I'm Lydia. In the Christian faith, we believe that everything we have is a gift from God, and we are merely stewards of those gifts. This applies to the government as well. When we talk about $9 billion in taxpayer money, we aren't just talking about numbers on a screen. We're talking about resources that were taken from the labor of hardworking citizens with the promise they would be used to help the least of these. When that money is stolen to buy mansions and luxury cars, it's a direct violation of the commandment, "Thou shalt not steal." But the sin goes deeper. It's a betrayal of the poor. By allowing this fraud to occur in a blind spot of cultural sensitivity, our leaders failed in their primary duty as ministers of justice. True compassion requires the truth. You cannot claim to love your neighbor while you allow their resources to be plundered by criminals. The Bible tells us in Romans 13 that there is no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. This is a difficult truth in a world that hates authority, but God is a God of order, not confusion. When we see riots, when we see people be encouraged to impede and obstruct the law, we are seeing a rejection of that divine order. While we have a moral obligation to stand against injustice, we also have a command to live peaceable and quiet lives. The tragedy we saw with Renee Good and Alex Preddy is a reminder of what happens when zeal without knowledge leads people into the heart of chaos. As Christians, we must have the discernment to see when we are being used as pawns in someone else's power play. We have to be finding our focus on the Word, which tells us that the truth will set us free, not the mob. So where do we go from here? The restoration of Minnesota and this country doesn't start with a lawsuit or a new government program. It starts with a return to the truth. We have to stop being afraid of being called names. We have to stop allowing the blind spot of identity politics to prevent us from calling out evil where we see it. We need a government that fears God more than it fears the media. We need a community that values the rule of law because they understand that without it, the vulnerable are the first ones to suffer. We must pray for our leaders, but we must also hold them to the biblical standard of the faithful servant. Thank you for walking through this series with me. This crisis in Minnesota is a wake-up call. It's a reminder that when we turn away from the truth, we end up in the dark. But even in the deepest blind spot, the light of the truth can still be found if we are willing to look for it. Thank you for watching part 5 of this series. Links for parts 1 through 4 are in the description. Subscribe and follow to be notified when our next series begins. And remember, keep searching to find your focus.